All right, welcome to another deep dive, you guys.
Yeah.
So this time we're doing something a little different. We found this really cool ESL podcast episode.
Okay.
And it's not really about learning English.
Right.
It's about what we can learn about American culture
I love that.
from the
Yeah.
stuff that they're teaching in this podcast.
Absolutely.
So it's all about
It's like a grocery store.
grocery shopping in America.
Mm-hmm.
And the situation they use for the lesson is someone who is trying to use the express lane,
Okay.
but they have way too many items.
Oh, I've been that person.
And their coupons are expired.
Oh, no.
So it's kind of like
That's a recipe for disaster.
kind of a recipe for disaster, yeah.
Yeah.
And the shopper says, "Cut me some slack,"
Uh-huh.
which I thought was interesting.
Well, and it's a really common phrase you hear
Yeah.
in casual American English.
Yeah.
And it basically means like, just, be a little flexible with me.
Yeah.
Bend the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating about this phrase is that it actually originates from mountain climbing.
Mountain climbing.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, so in climbing, slack refers to the looseness in a rope.
Okay.
So when a climber asks for slack, they're asking for a little extra rope,
Yeah.
to maneuver or to make a move.
I see.
And so over time, this term kind of like trickled down into everyday language
Huh.
and took on this meaning of giving someone some leeway or a break.
So, like, the shopper is asking the cashier to be their belay partner in the checkout line.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. It's really cool how like a really simple phrase can have
Uh-huh.
such a rich history and meaning behind it.
Yeah, and another thing that happens in this ESL podcast is,
Yeah.
the cashier asks
The class.
paper or plastic.
Yes, the age-old question.
Right.
Paper or plastic?
We've all heard it a million times.
Right. It's almost like a ritual.
Yeah, but I never really thought about
In
it.
American grocery stores. It's like what it means.
Yeah.
Well, it's become more than just a practical question.
Yeah.
The choice between paper and plastic bags
Mm-hmm.
is often framed as an environmental issue these days.
Okay.
So it's like you're making a statement
Wow.
about your values
Interesting.
with this simple choice.
Okay, so now it's not just about convenience.
Right.
It's like
It's like virtue signaling.
Yeah.
A little bit.
a little bit, yeah.
At the grocery store.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Another thing I thought was really interesting is how
Yeah.
the podcast talked about how a lot of teenagers work in supermarkets.
Yes. Especially as cashiers.
Yeah.
You see that a lot in the U.S.
Yeah. And they even pointed out,
And they even kind of like pointed out the gender roles a lot of times.
yeah,
The girls are at the checkout and the boys are stocking shelves.
right. Exactly.
And, these jobs are often seen as like entry-level positions,
Yeah.
for young people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of teenagers' first jobs.
Yeah.
And it gives them like a taste of like, the working world.
Right.
A sense of financial independence.
Yeah. It makes you think about how
That shapes them.
how that like shapes them
As
makes you
people,
better.
their first experiences with work and responsibility and even money,
Yeah.
Totally.
And then another thing I thought was interesting was how they talked about coupons
Oh, yes.
and how
Americans love pizza.
Americans love their coupons.
Yes.
And they even mentioned those like
I was on their paper.
Sunday newspaper coupon inserts, which
Yeah.
I always thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it's like a classic example of American consumerism,
Yeah.
like wanting to save money and find the best deals.
Yeah. Totally.
And for some people, couponing is like a serious hobby.
I know some people who like meticulously plan their shopping trips
Yeah.
around their coupons. It's like
Oh, yeah.
it's a whole thing.
It's a whole art form,
It is.
but it's also interesting to think about
Yeah.
like the psychology of coupons.
Right.
Like how they can really influence our buying decisions,
Absolutely.
even if the savings aren't that significant.
Yeah, we're all just suckers for
Like
it.
we get so excited
For a deal.
when we see that percentage off.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like marketers are playing a game with our minds,
Totally.
and we keep falling for it.
We do.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It makes you realize how much of our spending is driven by,
Yeah.
our emotions
Totally.
and like those subconscious cues.
Absolutely. So we have to be really mindful of that.
Very aware.
So much to think about.
So much to think about just from a trip to the supermarket.
I know.
It's amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back, and I was thinking about how when they were talking about putting things on the shelves,
Yeah.
they used the word stock.
Right.
But like we use that word in so many ways, like,
It's true. Stock is a really versatile word.
yeah.
But in the context of supermarkets, it specifically refers to like the process of replenishing the shelves with merchandise.
Right.
It's like, it's a whole behind the scenes operation. that make
Okay.
sure
Sure.
that shoppers, when we go to the store,
Yeah.
everything's there.
Yeah, like we just take it for granted.
Exactly. We just assume that the shelves will be stocked.
Right.
But like, there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, like a whole system.
Yeah, think about the logistics, like receiving shipments,
Mm-hmm.
organizing the inventory,
Yeah.
strategically placing items to entice customers.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
It's a whole art form.
And speaking of enticing customers,
Okay.
they also mentioned those like percentage off coupons.
Oh, yeah, those are classic.
Those get me every time.
Absolutely. Like those percentage off coupons
Yeah.
really tap into our desire for a good deal.
Yeah.
They create a sense of value and urgency,
Okay.
encouraging us to buy more than we might have intended.
Totally. Like if I see that percentage off symbol, I'm like
Like a Pavlovian response
Totally.
to savings.
no, it's so true.
Yeah, it's fascinating how these small cues
Yeah.
can really have a significant impact on our behavior.
Uh-huh.
But moving on from the psychology of discounts,
Okay.
let's talk about another word that popped up in this podcast.
Okay.
Poultry.
Poultry.
Yeah,
It always makes me think of like,
it's kind of an old-fashioned word.
yeah, like those old-timey butcher shops.
Yeah, but it's still commonly used in supermarkets.
Totally.
And it encompasses like a wide range of birds that are raised for meat or eggs.
Okay.
Chickens, turkeys,
Hmm.
ducks, geese.
Okay.
It's a reminder that, we have access to such a
Fine.
variety of food sources.
Yeah. And speaking of words that might seem a bit dated,
Okay.
they also use the term bag boy,
Oh, yeah.
which like kind of made me cringe a little.
Yeah, it does feel a little gendered and outdated.
Yeah, like it's 2023.
Yeah, thankfully, it's becoming more common to hear like bagger
Yeah, that's better.
as a more inclusive alternative.
Yeah, it's important to
Language evolves to
Yeah.
reflect changing social norms.
for sure.
And it's important to be mindful of the language we use
Yeah.
and to choose words that are respectful and inclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. And then I noticed our stressed out shopper also asked for cash back,
Oh, yeah, that's
which has become so common.
so common in American supermarkets.
Yeah, it's like,
It's like every grocery store is a mini ATM.
yeah, it's crazy. And it's also interesting how it reflects that.
The larger trend toward a cashless society.
Yeah, that's true.
We're increasingly relying on credit cards, debit cards.
Yeah, like Apple Pay, Google Pay.
Exactly. All those digital payment systems.
Makes you wonder what's going to happen in like
Yeah, what are the long-term implications
10 years, 20 years.
of this shift?
Yeah, like will we eventually just not use cash at all?
Yeah. Will we be a completely cashless society?
And like, is that good or bad?
Yeah. There's definitely concerns about financial privacy
Mm.
and the potential for increased debt. But then there's also like the advantages in terms of security and convenience.
Right.
So it's a
Like-
very complex issue
Yeah.
with far-reaching consequences.
That's right.
Totally.
Okay, and then another piece of technology we can't forget about
Oh, yes.
is the barcode.
The humble barcode.
It's just like so ubiquitous.
It's everywhere.
We see it everywhere, but we don't think about it.
Yeah, we never really stop to think about how it works.
Yeah.
It's amazing, though.
But it's like,
It's like a marvel of engineering and design.
yeah,
Those seemingly simple lines and numbers
yeah.
contain a wealth of information about a product.
Okay.
Its price, its manufacturer, its origin.
Wow.
It's a system that really enabled the automation of checkout processes,
Uh-huh.
and it transformed the retail industry.
Yeah.
Like, think about how different things would be.
Yeah, it's crazy how we're just so used to it.
Exactly.
But it was like groundbreaking at one point.
It was a revolutionary innovation.
I know. Okay, before we move on, I have to ask.
Yeah.
Did you notice how our shopper kept saying, it's just not my day?
Oh, yeah. It's like
It's so relatable.
it's like a universal expression of frustration
Yeah.
when things just aren't going your way.
Yeah, we all have those days.
We do.
It's just funny how like those little things
Right.
can feel so huge.
Yeah, like an expired coupon or a long checkout line
Yeah.
can suddenly feel like the end of the world.
Totally.
Yeah, it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
And sometimes just acknowledging those off days
Yeah.
can help us laugh at ourselves
Right.
and move on.
Totally.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're back, you guys, and like we've learned so much
I know, right?
about American supermarkets from this one little ESL podcast.
It's amazing how much is packed into just a
Okay.
simple trip to the grocery store.
It is. It is. And there's one last thing I wanted to talk about that
ahead.
they mentioned, which is when the cashier asks
Yeah,
debit or credit.
right. The ultimate question.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like such a simple question.
Right.
But it says so much about,
Like where we are
yeah,
as a society.
our financial landscape
Exactly.
and like how that's changed so much.
Yeah, it really highlights
Yeah.
how prevalent like electronic transactions are
Totally.
in modern society.
Yeah, it's like we're moving away from cash
We are
more and more.
further and further away from cash.
Totally.
Yeah.
And like that has both good and bad implications, right?
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons.
Yeah, like on the one hand, it's so convenient.
Right. You don't have to carry around a bunch of cash.
Yeah, like you don't have to worry about like getting mugged or something, and it's just faster.
Yeah, and it can be more secure too.
Yeah,
You know. But on the other hand, like,
You have to worry about financial privacy
yeah, and like,
and the potential for debt.
yeah,
You know?
it's so easy to overspend
It is.
when you're not like physically, when you're not seeing that cash leave your hand.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You get disconnected from your spending.
From your spending
Yeah.
and like the reality of what you're actually,
Right.
doing to your bank account. So
Right. It's scary.
it is scary, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I think like financial literacy is just so important.
It is. It's more important than ever,
Yeah.
in this digital age.
Yeah, like we really have to learn about,
We have to educate ourselves
yeah.
about how to manage our money responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Oh, crazy.
How we started with like this simple phrase,
I know.
paper or plastic.
Paper or plastic?
And now we're talking about like,
The future of finance.
yeah, like debit or credit.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting how much this one little ESL podcast.
I know. It's amazing how much we've learned
I know.
about American culture and consumer
Yeah.
behavior and,
Yeah.
the evolution of our financial systems.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It is really cool.
It is. Well, I think that about wraps it up for us.
I feel.
I hope you guys learned something new.
I know I did.
I know I did too. It's always so fun to do these deep dives.
It is.
And we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.